Hi everyone, welcome to Heal Yourself Connection. This is already episode 8 and my guest today is the beautiful Lorna Smith. If I can describe Lorna in 3 words, that will be powerful, brave and so much strength. She is such an incredible speaker and talks from the heart and self-experience. Her episodes will be about finding her voice and following her heart. This wasn't an easy road at all, no. Leaving a 32-year of marriage to start over again in her 50s. But she trusted her heart and step by step she was getting closer to knowing herself and knowing her heart desires. The way Lorna walks her path is so inspiring. She does this with so much love, trust and dives into whatever comes her way. Wow, I'm so grateful to have her on this episode. Welcome to Heal Yourself Connection. My name is Sylvia and it's been a long time that I have done interviews because I think the one who has been following me has seen that I've been in a very hard process and I lost my brother in January and I just stopped with everything because I needed time for myself to look at myself and go within because he committed suicide and that's very hard for me and I just miss him I've been in so many phases the last couple of months. I've been through guilt, grief, pain, confusion, just so much. But now there is also a little part of me that feels, now sadness, but also the love and fire to start with Heal Yourself Connection again. Because Heal My Self Connection, my brother now is actually now a part of my Heal Yourself Connection. So it's about just letting you know how I feel, and I feel sad and but also excited to do this interview. And it's honoring him by taking him on my journey, and he's now part of my Heal Yourself Connection journey, and I just honor him in that way. Sorry. Thank you for just letting me open up and just let this heavy go out so I can start again with Heal Yourself Connection and with this lovely lady here with me, Lorna Smith. I love you. Thank you for letting me tell that just my truth at the moment so I can relax more and just be.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I love you,
Welcome to Heal
Sylvia.
Yourself Connection. You have such an amazing story, and I will learn so much from you. I know the listeners and the viewers also will learn so much from you, so I'm very curious to hear your story and to interview and ask questions about it. So welcome.
Thank you, Sylvia. And I want to thank you for sharing how you feel so honestly and authentically, because that's been exactly my journey too, is learning how to not be afraid to do that and how to just be ourselves. And so many people feel the same emotions that you just described, but I know so many people who feel uncomfortable voicing that and sharing that and being in that, but we all feel it. And for you to just do that in that way gives other people so much permission to just be themselves and share these feelings, because that's what connects us all as human beings, is we all feel that way. And that's a lot of what I'm going to talk about in my story too, about going within, like you just said, and allowing ourselves to feel the fullness of whatever feelings we feel, because we don't always feel happiness and joy, but that's what people think they should share, and that's what people feel like other people expect of them. But if we have the courage to share all of our feelings, it just connects us more, I think. So I just, bravo to you, Sylvia.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, thank you for saying that. Yeah.
It's true. So, where do you want me to start? Do you want me to start with my transformational story?
Yeah. How amazing and brave and courage you have and had and just I think that's amazing. So wherever your heart want to start,
okay,
that's what is going to flow, and we'll see where
we're
going. So
okay, the first thing I'm thinking of when you ask me to share my story is that my story has changed so much in the last few years. And it used to be where I didn't know how to tell my story without telling someone else's story too, without telling my father's story and my ex-husband's story, because I didn't know how to see myself as a separate person from them. And so I looked at everything about me as what was done to me, and my experiences through helping other people and focusing on other people so much that I didn't even know who I was. So this time I'm going to tell my story, but I'm realizing now that it's a story of my own transformation. And it's not a story about the other people in my life and how they affected me so much as it is. They are the backdrop, and the experiences in my life is the backdrop to my transformational story, and that I was meant to be on this journey all along. So I guess I'll start with
the backdrop. What do you mean by backdrop?
Oh, backdrop. It's like behind the scenes.
Oh.
It's like in a movie, when you're watching a movie and you're seeing the background.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the background of my transformational story.
In your movie then?
But it's my movie, yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's my movie. It's not their movie. Yeah. And I never knew how to see that this is my movie. And I don't have to revolve myself around them and around their movies. This is my own movie. Now I'm seeing them as actors in my movie and players in my movie. And I'm also seeing that I wrote this movie. I wrote my own movie. And so I asked for all these people to come into my life and to show me how I am supposed to relate to myself, actually. So I believe all these people were helping me get to a point where I can go within and I can know myself. So I guess I'll just start with the biggest thing in my story is that 2.5 years ago, I left my 32-year marriage. And, it's so funny because for the first 2 years or so, that's how I introduced myself. That's how I saw myself, as like, oh, I left my 32-year marriage and, I used to be married and now I'm not. But now I don't define myself by that anymore. Because I see that it was the pivotal thing that happened for my growth and my transformation. And it allowed me to start seeing how courageous I really am. And I really had no idea how much resilience and courage that I have inside of me. And I believe we all have that inside of us. It's just putting ourselves, having the faith and trust to put ourselves in the situations that our hearts and our souls are telling us to do, and then we will find all the courage that is inside all of us. So I left my marriage 2.5 years ago, and the truth now is that I know that I was actually in a verbally abusive and emotionally abusive relationship. And it's only been, Sylvia, it's only been the last 6 months or so, or even less, that I can even say that out loud. Because I did not even know that I was in a verbally abusive or emotionally abusive relationship. I just thought that that was normal, that it was just something that I knew all my life. So just a little background. I'm the child of an alcoholic father. So I grew up thinking that I was not supposed to speak. I was not welcome to speak, that my opinion didn't really matter that much. My role as a child was just to be quiet, don't make any trouble, don't make anyone angry, because then that person might leave. And so I just didn't want to cause any problems. So I just kept everything to myself, and I didn't feel like I was an important part of the family. And I didn't feel like I had the right to say how I felt or what I thought. But I didn't know anything different. So that was just normal to me. So I ended up, as a lot of us do, automatically searching for someone in my life that fit that mold that I was familiar with. And so I was very attracted to my ex-husband, and I fell in love with him immediately. He reminded me a lot of my father. I was attracted. He was charming. He's funny. He's the life of the party. Everyone gravitates towards him. He's sensitive and romantic, but at the same time, there was that element of him where I felt very dismissed and very disrespected. And in my marriage, it just felt so normal to me because that's the way I grew up. But as my marriage progressed, and I was married 32 years, and at about the 25-year mark, everything started to change for me. I started getting messages from the universe, what I consider messages, that my soul was not calling for this anymore, that I was starting to feel like something's terribly wrong. It doesn't feel normal to me anymore. And that was the most interesting thing to me, is because it went from a period of feeling so normal, that, and all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute. Something was telling me that I needed to get out of this relationship. But instead of believing that I had to get out of this relationship, I tried to change the relationship. I tried to change my ex-husband. And
can I ask,
yeah,
what kind of messages did you receive that you saw?
Yeah. So one particular message that I would get is, I want to go back to, I'll tell you about this message. I wanted to go back to what caused me to be in the situation where I actually got this message. So I mentioned that I was a child of an alcoholic. Well, there was a point in my marriage where my husband started to drink a lot also. So that started to replicate, my marriage actually started to replicate my childhood, which was beautiful because I actually called it all in. And so here I was in the same situation. I felt like I was sort of reliving my childhood. And all I know, and everything I'm saying right now, is I'm speaking from my own experience. This is my own experience. I don't want to tell my husband's story because I could go into what happened when his drinking increased, but that's his story. All I know from my point of view is that his drinking started to increase, and that started to bring up and trigger all these things in my past from my childhood, which started bringing everything up to the surface for me. So when this happened, I sought out support. And this is one of the things that I really want to invite people to do when they feel confused in their life or feel lost, is to seek out support. Because at this point, I felt like when I started getting these feelings, one of the messages I started getting was, you don't belong here anymore. And I'm like, what? Who said that? Like, who said that? Because I never pictured myself a divorced woman, ever. And it was so strange and felt so strange to be so in love with my husband, but feel confused about the way I was being treated at the same time. Because there were a lot of things that I don't think he was ready to see for himself and deal with himself. We all have our own pasts, and we all have our own problems, right? But I'm learning that we each have to be willing to do the work on ourselves in order to transcend and grow and progress in our lives here. And what I learned is I can't force someone else to do that, and I can't change someone else and make them want to do that. And that's what I was trying to do. What happened was, when I started feeling this pull, like there was some reason I needed to leave this marriage, I wasn't ready to see why yet. I wasn't ready to look at it yet. So instead of looking at what I needed to see for myself, I tried to change him. And I tried to get him to stop doing this and him to start doing this, and why are you doing this? And I focused on him just like I focused on my father the whole time. So that was the natural thing for me to do. So the first thing I did when I felt like I could not find my way in this, and I sought help. And one of the first things I did was I went to Al-Anon. And I don't know if your viewers know what Al-Anon is, but okay, I will tell you. Al-Anon is a support group for families and friends of problem drinkers. So, alcoholics have a place where they can go for support, and it's called Alcoholics Anonymous. There's also a group for families and friends of alcoholics called Al-Anon. And
didn't know that.
Yes, and it's worldwide. So even where you live, Sylvia, I guarantee there are groups there. So I went to Al-Anon, and oh my gosh, the support there is incredible. I first went to Al-Anon to ask them, how can I fix my husband? How can I get him to do what I want him to do to make my marriage the way I want it to be? And it turns out that that's not what they showed me. They actually showed me how to take care of myself and how to focus on myself instead of the other people around me. Because when you grow up with chaos around you in an alcoholic home, like I said before, your only concern is to just keep that chaos from happening. So you do anything you can just to keep everyone in check, everything from getting out of control. So you lose focus on yourself, and you end up revolving your life around the person who may cause the chaos. So that's what happened in my marriage also. But Al-Anon was the first place that I ever went, and it was the first time I ever heard that I am a separate person from the person who's in trouble. And that it wasn't my job to fix the person who's in trouble. It's my job to concentrate on me and let them figure out their own path and let them figure out how to fix themselves. And what I realized through the years of, that was 9 years ago that I went to Al-Anon. And what I've realized since is that as I focus on myself and separate myself emotionally from the other person, I'm actually allowing them the dignity of finding their own path. And I was learning that, my ex-husband and I met at the perfect time for the perfect reasons so that we were compatible at the time, but that doesn't always mean that that is what my soul is going to be calling for. So as I started focusing on myself and I was able to go more within, I started hearing the messages that the universe was sending me. So the first message that I got which is what you're asking me, is as I began to connect to myself more, I began to hear these messages. So I was on the computer one day, and I was just surfing, surfing the internet and things like that. All of a sudden, I go to Google and I type in spiritual retreats. And I thought, what is that? I don't even know what a spiritual retreat is. I had no idea why I typed those words into Google. I closed the computer. I said, this is ridiculous. I closed the computer. I left. I went to get my nails done. And who is sitting beside me in the salon to get my nails done was a friend that I hadn't seen in months and months and months. And I said, oh my gosh, how are you? It's so good to see you. What have you been up to? And she said, oh, I just got back from a spiritual retreat. And I said, you did? Where? And she told me where. And she told me she went to Sedona, Arizona. And I couldn't believe it. I didn't even know what it was 10 minutes before that. And here I am talking to someone I haven't seen in months. And she's telling me she went to one too. I go back home. I open my computer. The place she told me she went to is the place that I had clicked on the Google search. Oh. So this gives me chills just thinking about it now, because I don't believe that those kind of things are coincidences. I think they're synchronistic events that always happen to us, and it's just a matter of whether we are open and willing to see these signs.
And what is this synchronistic?
Synchronistic. So synchronicity. So a coincidence is something that happens by chance. By chance. Synchronicity is when something happens. It's not by chance. It's meant to be on your path to guide you. It's a guidance. It's not just chance. Yeah. But I believe that we are always being guided on our path. Just that sometimes we are so in our heads that we don't see these messages, or we see something or hear something and we think, oh, that's ridiculous, which is what I did for years. I thought, that's ridiculous. That's what I thought when I looked up spiritual retreats. I'm like, that's ridiculous. I don't even know what a spiritual retreat is. I'm not spiritual. I closed it, but I had that something inside of me had me type in those words, and I don't know where it came from. So I believe there's guidance like that, and that synchronicity, it's meant to be in your life as guidance. It's like, to me, it's like guidance from beyond. Yeah. Okay. It's like guidance from spirit. Yeah. That's what it feels like to me. So the reason I think this happened was because Al-Anon, it's not a religious program, it's a spiritual program. So it's based on the concept that you don't have to be in charge of everything, that there is something bigger than you in the world, in the universe, that is that has control over things, and that you can turn over your worries to that. We call it a higher power. Some people call it God. Some people call it the universe. But there's just the belief that there is something more than you, bigger than you, that you can turn your troubles over to and get that guidance and receive that guidance. And ever since that Al-Anon introduced me to spirituality, I think, to that openness that I don't have to do this all by myself. There's support out there in many, many ways, shape, or form. So I went on this spiritual retreat, and that was the first time I had ever been apart from my ex-husband at all for 25 years, not even for a weekend. We were that connected. Our relationship was so codependent that I had no sense of individuality and no sense of myself, and I was afraid to do anything alone. I was afraid of what he might think. I was afraid of disappointing him. I was afraid of rejection. I was afraid of abandonment. So it was time for me to be getting these messages. And I wasn't ready to see what I needed to see until my soul and my emotional state was ready for me to see it. So I went on the spiritual retreat, and that's where I was introduced to meditation and more spiritual books, spiritual concepts. And then I just started tapping more into myself and beginning to learn what my heart wanted and what my soul wanted. And then I started to understand why I was starting to feel like something was changing in my marriage. I understood that it was my heart speaking to me. And I think that my heart led me exactly down this path. I was born into this family situation that I was born into so that I would be in a position to where I would have to find my voice in this life, that I would have to learn how to be myself, speak up for myself. And then when I became the age to marry, I wasn't ready to do that yet. So I believe I met someone who would continue to guide me and help me through that process. And in actuality, I felt like my excitement and my joy inside of me and my voice, I felt like I was always asking for people in my life that would squash that, that would shrink it and not allow me to be that. Yeah. And now I see that it got to a certain extent and I felt so small that, have you ever heard that term? If you don't see something, if you don't see what your heart is asking for, the universe will keep hitting you over the head with it until you do. And then that's what happened. So I kept asking for people in my life to keep showing me. So I felt more stifled and smaller until I feel like I had a spiritual awakening and a transformational awakening.
Oh, tell us about.
Okay. So at this point I was married. All this started when I was married about 25 years. So in 2013, my ex-husband and I decided to move to Mexico together. So at this point, I knew that I had been in Al-Anon, and I had gained support through other spiritual books and meditation meetings and meditation groups. Yeah. So I was reading, can I mention names of what kind of books I was reading? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was reading spiritual books by Gabrielle Bernstein, was one of the first ones I read. Mm-hmm. And it's called The Universe Has Your Back. That was one of the ones. And that's all about how there's a trust out there. There's a trust out there. If you just dare to do what your heart is asking, there's trust out there. And her book is also about love, about how everything in life is, how love is underneath everything, and how to turn your fears into that faith and love. And that's what I always felt my whole life. I always felt like there was so much joy inside of me, so much love. And I think that's part of why I wanted to help the people in my life so much, my father, my ex-husband, because I saw the love in them. I saw the potential in them. I saw what they could really be. But what I realize now is that it wasn't my job to get them to reach their potential and get them to rise up and reach their potential. It's their job to do that. And when I realized that, I think that was the beginning of that realization process, is when he started to have more serious problems on his own, and he chose to deal with it the way he chose to deal with it. And that wasn't aligned with me anymore. And that was when we started to separate. That was when our souls started to separate. So Gabrielle Bernstein was one of the books. I'm just going to turn around and look at my bookshelf. Oh, gosh. Louise Hay. I don't know if your listeners know of Hay House and Louise Hay. Louise Hay is a transformational teacher and who was very ill. She had cancer, and she decided to forego and decline medical treatments for her cancer. And she felt that she could heal herself from within. So Louise Hay feels like there is a mind-body connection to all illnesses, and that illnesses in the body are a manifestation of something emotional that is going on that we're not dealing with, that we're not seeing. So she wrote books like Heal Your Life, You Can Heal Your Life.
Yeah, I have
and you have that one?
Yeah.
So, yes, I knew you did. And so just following, and then she has a publishing company called Hay House. So this is how I found all these authors. Gabrielle Bernstein is a Hay House author. And so then I started following other authors there. Marianne Williamson, Melody Beatty, Alan Cohen. All of these people have like daily readers where you can read like a little affirmation every day. And so Louise Hay had that too. So that, and then all of a sudden, my mind and my awareness is just so much more about spirituality and about how then I just started seeing things happening all around me. Once I believed that I was on the right path and that I was following my heart, everything just started, people started coming into my life that I was shocked at how things were unfolding for me. But those are the books I took with me to Mexico. And people ask me, if you already knew that your marriage was in trouble, why would you even move to Mexico? Why would you leave your home in the United States and move there? But it had always been our dream to travel after retirement. So he's a little older than me, so he was of retirement age, and I was not ready to see the truth, the entire truth. And I was not ready to give up my marriage. I was married 25 years at this time, 27 years, and I was not ready to give up my marriage. I was not ready to see what I needed to see. And I believe you don't see what you need to see until you're ready to see it. Because once I was ready to see it, I knew exactly what to do. I found my courage. I was strong, but I had to be at that certain point. Yeah. So here's when my spiritual awakening happened. So here we are. We sold everything we owned, and we decided to travel Mexico. So we were in Mexico for about 2 years. Oh. And things just got worse and worse and worse. My connection to him started getting more distant because I started getting closer to my own heart and my own soul.
And your own connection.
And my own connection, exactly, by reading these books. So I just dove into reading anything I could, studying anything I could, listening to anything I could. I started listening to yoga music, meditation music, getting into yoga, which really helped me a lot. But, you know, the group I mentioned before, Al-Anon, and I mentioned that they have Al-Anon groups all over the world. They have groups in Mexico. So as soon as I got to Mexico, I found a group there, and I had a sponsor.
Was it online or was it
no,
you go to a meeting?
You go to a meeting, in person,
okay.
in person. You can do it online, but it's in person.
Yeah, okay.
So the idea behind Al-Anon too is for you to have a sponsor so that they can help you through the process that they went through in order to connect with themselves. So as soon as I got there, I got a sponsor just like I had in the US, and she helped me, and she was just there for me. They don't give you advice. They're just there for support as you go through your own process. But they're there to help you connect more to yourself too, and to focus on yourself. So as we were living there, the situation got worse and worse and worse. I started to emotionally separate from him more and more. And then, like I said, the universe will continue to hit you over the head until you see what you need to see. So I didn't see it before I moved to Mexico. It's like, all right, fine, we'll keep showing you. So one day I was sitting on the edge of the bed in our apartment in Mexico, And my husband was standing over me, and I remember his voice was raised, and I remember just feeling so small and just so insignificant and panicked, feeling panicked. And what happened was the most surreal thing. As he stood there talking to me, voice raised, yelling at me, I just started, it was like a movie. Everything just started getting very, very hazy, and like I started feeling like I was underwater, that feeling like you can't hear things. Everything was like an echo. And then all of a sudden, I just felt this energy just come right up through me, and I felt this shift in my body. And I can't describe it any other way. And I was so upset and so panicked that I felt all this pain and energy rising up, and then all of a sudden it just went, and there was a shift.
Yeah.
And right then I thought to myself, oh my God, I'm leaving. Oh my God, I'm leaving. I'm going.
It's like enough.
And done. And then once that happened, once that shift happened, it was like there was no going back. It's like once you know something, you don't unknow it. You can't go back and unknow it. You know it for life.
Yeah.
And what I'm realizing now is that, you know, he had so much pain himself. He was in so much pain himself that I think the universe was telling me, you can't help him anymore. You can't be here for him. You have to help yourself. And this is not in my best interest to be in this kind of situation.
Yeah, you have to see your pain.
Yes, and I was never willing to see my pain, because remember, I grew up feeling like my opinion didn't matter. And my pain didn't matter. It was the person in the family who had the problem. That's all that mattered. So this was the first, it was almost like, like I was physically being transformed to be able to see that my pain mattered. Yeah. And so I just felt this pull, like I was being pulled away from the relationship. And I didn't know why yet. I didn't know where I was going to go or what I was going to do, and I did not know who I was on my own at all. But I called a family member and I said, can I come and stay with you for about a month? So I went back to the U.S. for about a month, and I stayed just to see how it felt, and I discovered
left then.
I just left, like within a week.
Yeah.
I left.
That was very hard, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And I realized that I needed to leave the marriage, so I came back and packed up everything and left. But it was really difficult because I still love him. I still love him now.
Yeah.
But what I'm realizing now is that I can love someone and not be with them too. And the other thing is, as I'm connecting to myself, I am realizing a deeper appreciation and gratitude and a deeper love for the relationship than I ever have felt in the relationship. Because I see how the universe put everything in my path perfectly for me to learn what I needed to learn about myself, and for me to grow in the space that I'm meant to grow, and what I am actually capable of doing. I had no idea what I was capable of doing and how strong I really am. Yeah, so I went back to the U.S. and I lived with my family for 3 months. And then I came back to the city I used to live in with my ex-husband. And I got a job, and full-time job, and I went back to Al-Anon, and I continued my transformation, and I started over again in my 50s after 32 years of marriage.
It's amazing.
And it was really hard because when you're in a relationship that is so controlling, you don't realize that you're being manipulated. You don't realize that you're being controlled because you're in this state of confusion of how can someone love me so much and insult me or disrespect me at the same time. So I thought, that's not possible. I'm the one that's crazy. I'm the crazy person. So I
But
spent...
at first you couldn't see that, and afterwards you
No,
saw it. At first you couldn't see it.
nope,
It was normal because it was at your family home also like that. So you, yeah,
yep,
okay.
exactly. It was normal. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was the one who needed to change. So I spent years going to therapists, going to support groups, going to reading, trying to fix myself. When it really, there was nothing wrong with me. I wasn't broken. No one is broken. Everyone has the opportunity in their lifetime, if they want, to see themselves, work on themselves. And it, like I said, it's not my job to do that for someone else, but I could never see that before. So now I'm on a transformational journey that I've always meant to be, that I have always meant to be on. I was always meant to be on. And now what I want to do is I want to help other women. I want to help other women connect to themselves, and I want to help other women know that following their heart is following their truth, because I believe that everything we want to know is inside of us, that all the answers we ever want to know is inside of us. Like, we don't ever have to ask for anyone else's advice, because everything we want to know is in our hearts. And the key is getting centered, getting quiet, getting still so we can listen to our hearts. And I want to help other women who might be in unhealthy relationships know that they can start over if that's what their heart is asking them to do. And it's not always starting over, but that they can even improve their relationships with their spouses, with their families, in professional situations,
With
by
themselves.
connecting to them with themselves. Because if you connect with yourself, you are bringing your best self to every situation. And I am so surprised at how the energy around me changes and elevates if I just be myself the whole time. Because myself is love and joy and excitement and possibilities and positivity. And when I don't feel like I have to keep that hidden, and then I can just come in and be that way, no matter what's going on around me. I used to feel like if people were depressed, I had to go down to their level of depression. If people were angry, I shouldn't speak my truth. But now I'm learning how to find my voice, even if there are people around me who want to squash me down. That I'm learning how to find my voice and sit in my truth no matter what's going on around me. And I just want to share that with other women, how to connect with themselves and to make choices in their life that are aligned with their souls. Because when we do that, I was so afraid that I would lose the people around me. I was so afraid that I would be abandoned. But now I know that that's what I actually wanted. That's what my soul wanted. I wanted to always be my authentic self and let everyone else fall away that's not supposed to be in my life. I was supposed to allow that to happen so that now I can bring in and be surrounded by the people who support my expansion in being myself. That's what we're all here to do. And you know where I learned all this stuff?
Yeah.
From can I mention from Kyle
of
Cease?
course.
Oh my gosh. This is where you and I met.
Yeah.
Online, I mean, in his private groups for the first time. And then I had the amazing opportunity to meet you in person and to give you a hug and to hold you and to be like, it was just heart to heart connection there. And so that's where I learned all that I'm talking right now, that everything is about going within. So now my meditation practice is my main connection with myself. And whenever I want to know an answer, I'm in meditation and I can just say, show me what I need to know about whatever. Show me what I need to know about my living situation. Show me what I need to know about this job. Yeah. So
Yeah, because
that
you're just changed also. Yeah, like you did a huge leap with your husband, and now it's
yes,
like another and another and another. It's like,
it's totally right.
panic.
Yeah, which is so exciting because
Yeah.
as I grew to know myself better after I left my marriage, I had more courage and faith in myself and trust. Now I have found that sitting with my every fear and pain that I felt, I was afraid to feel those things. And I know you know what I'm talking about. I was afraid to sit in the intensity of pain and fear and grief and sorrow. And what I found now is that those experiences actually turn out to be my greatest joys, is to be able to sit in all that pain and fear. And what happened for me is when I sat in it, it just rose and rose and got stronger and stronger and stronger, but then it just falls away. And what I see is that it's not bigger than me. I'm bigger than that. I'm more than that. And then after it falls away, there's all this space left underneath it for all that love and all that truth to come through. So that allowed me to build more courage in myself. So after I came back to San Francisco and I got this full-time job and I showed myself that I can support myself on my own, I can make a life that is aligned with me, that is authentic with me, I decided to go even further.
No,
And I
to the next
decided
level. Always like,
the next level. So
yeah.
first it was just like getting to know myself. And now that I trust myself so much and I trust my decisions so much, that I just decided that I am going to, in order to keep living aligned with my soul and my heart, that I want to just let go of everything in my life that feels heavy to me, that feels heavy in my body. Because if something feels distressful, if something feels stressful in my body, if I feel anxious, I used to get this choking feeling in my throat when I started feeling like I can't speak. Whenever I feel anything in my body, because I feel like my emotions manifest themselves in bodily sensations. So if I feel, I feel heaviness in my chest, or if I feel a constriction in my throat, there's something going on that I'm not looking at. There's some emotion going on that I'm not seeing. So now I've learned to be guided by that, and I've just decided to let go of anything in my life that feels heavy. So I quit my job. I quit my job like 2 months ago because I believe that I have a purpose, and I feel so passionate about helping other women, about maybe coaching other women to connect with themselves. And I'm just going to follow the next thing that feels right to me. But right now I have this pull to live in nature. I really want to live closer to nature, and I live in a big city. So I think that's one of the reasons that I quit my job, is because even though I'm trusting, even though I don't know why my soul is calling me to do something, I don't have to know why right now. Whereas it's hard to think, a lot of people, it's hard to think that way because we feel like we have to make sense of something first, and we have to figure something out first.
We have to know.
We have to know what's going to happen first. But I trust the unknown so much now that I know the answers will come if I follow my heart, because my heart is never wrong. My heart is not going to lead me in the wrong direction.
Yeah. On the way.
Yep. Like this, like this, like this. But as long as I sit in that and I'm not afraid of that, and I really can't think of anything that I'm really afraid of anymore. I know that I am provided for, and that I trust myself. And yep, I can always change my mind. If I make a decision, I can always change my mind. So I'm not even afraid of the decisions that I make anymore. Yeah.
No, that's crazy what you all did these past couple of years. It's mind-blowing, like, woo!
It is.
Yeah.
It is. So much awareness and so much self-development has happened in the last 2 years. Could have never imagined it Yeah.
It's amazing and very very bravely. And yeah, tell us a little bit more about yeah, you wanting to help other women, like if they are in the yeah at the place where you were like 9 years ago.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
what's the first thing like they can do, or just first getting the awareness, or
Yeah.
what would you advise to them, like?
So I think the first thing I would advise is to listen to what you're feeling. Listen to your feelings. Believe your feelings. Whether you do something about your feelings or not at the time, because now I see that everything I was feeling was getting me ready to make whatever decision that I needed to make. It doesn't mean that I had to do anything right then. There was somebody in my support group, my online group, who kept saying to me, you'll be ready to know what you need to know when you're ready to know it. You'll know what you need to know when you're ready to know it. So there's just to have the patience, just to trust your feelings and have the patience, but to wait for it to unfold, to wait for it to become more clear to you. Yeah. The other thing is get support. Reach out for support, because there is support out there. There are not only support groups, there are books, there are private Facebook groups. But there are also not only Facebook but online opportunities now to connect with people. That's how we met. Because once you find a support that speaks to you, then you'll be introduced to so many other women. So the other thing that
And actually getting the awareness that it's not normal, the situation where they are in, because before they couldn't see that, and if you talk to other people about it, it's like,
yes,
maybe.
and that's exactly what happens, because somebody says, like, here's what happened to me. I was in Mexico, and I was talking to someone else in my support group, and I said, you know what really hurts the most is when he says these things to me or whatever. And she said, he says that to you? And I said, yeah. And she goes, I would never let anyone say anything like that to me. And I said, oh, you wouldn't? It wasn't until then that I realized that that's not normal, because you are in a situation that you are accustomed to and familiar with. And I remember one of the books I read was a book called Should I Stay or Should I Go? And it was a book about being in a relationship that feels unhealthy. And it wasn't until I read that book that I realized that it was an emotionally abusive relationship. Now, I can say this now with so much love for my ex-husband, because I feel no blame whatsoever. I felt so much guilt for so long for leaving, but I don't blame myself for staying so long anymore, for so much time passing by when I knew for so long that it was not healthy for me to be in the relationship, but I didn't do anything about it. And now I'm in my 50s, and so much time has gone by, and I really blamed myself a lot for that. I don't blame myself anymore. I don't blame him for anything, because I see that this is where he is. This is where I was. This is where I am now. And just the awareness but you get so accustomed to being in a situation that you don't see what other people see, or you're not able to see what it really is. So in this book, it described what an abusive relationship was, and I thought, holy cow, oh my gosh, I had no idea. So that changed everything, and I think all that led up to my having that spiritual awakening, being ready to leave. But I wasn't ready to leave until I knew exactly what was going on in my relationship.
It's like going back and see like, oh, the situation of you, like, how can I explain this? That you take a step back and you see from,
from a different out
yeah,
of your body, from someone else. Yeah, you see from a different perspective. You see from a different perspective,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And perspective is so huge
mm-hmm.
because sometimes you're so in a situation, right, that you only have your own perspective. Mm-hmm. Once you start seeing it from other people's perspective who have been in the same circumstances, or other instances, you start getting different perspectives. The other thing I wanted to say too is perspective is huge now, because I feel like I can choose how I look at things now. I could look at this whole thing and feel anger, and I went through an anger stage, but I can feel angry, and I can feel stuck, and I can feel blocked, and I can just be so angry that I sit in my own misery. But I choose to have the perspective that I am just so grateful. I am so grateful for my ex-husband and the relationship that we had, because he was the best teacher of my life. And just me feeling that gratitude towards him and towards our relationship allows me to reach a level of acceptance about it, and transcend that, and not sit in pain, but instead sit in possibility. The possibility, and then I'm just sending so much good energy to him. So I think perspective is everything. And that's how I look at my life now.
Yeah, but it was like step by step,
right.
Because it wasn't like, okay, here I leave, now I've gratitude, but it was a whole journey to yourself, and each time, oh, this is new, and a new level, a new layer.
Yes. It started at the 25-year mark, and I was married 32. Wow. So it started at the 25-year mark, but so then you go, oh, I don't feel comfortable in this relationship. What should I do? So then you're like, oh, I'm Googling this. Oh, where did that come from? Mm-hmm. All right, I'll go on this spiritual retreat. Oh, what's Al-Anon? Okay, maybe I'll go to that. Oh, and then that leads to something else, and then that leads to something else, and then this other person comes in your life, and then that person introduces you to another idea, and then that idea causes you to research this topic, and it just took that long, and now, isn't it beautiful? It's just...
You just said like the next step of your heart, all the steps your heart was telling you, and all the steps, but it's like step by step and not the whole thing that you can see. And that's trust, like you said. You have, but when you take little steps, the trust also grows with you, because you see, well, this is for my own good. So you're exactly right. And if people are wondering, where do I start? Where do I start? You just start with the next step, with just one little step. So, Kyle Cease talks about this too. Just do the next thing that lights you up. Just do the next thing that excites you. That's your next step. Whether it's go for a walk, it could be to read a book, it could be to Google a support group. Whatever is coming, whatever idea is coming into your head, that's your next step. Just see what that... So for me, one of the next steps was, I never thought that I had any creativity at all. And what I started to do was write, and I started to write in order to just heal myself. I wanted to just write down my feelings, and so I had been keeping journals for years. But I just started to write to myself, and then I started reading my own writing, and I thought, wow, I wish I had this to read when I was trying to decide whether I should stay or go. And so I started a blog, and I just started putting it out there. And that was huge for me, to put my feelings and my experiences out into the world, because to go from someone who felt like they did not have a voice or didn't have a right to speak, and that their opinion didn't even matter, for me to put it out there. So that's what I've been doing. And so I encourage anyone to just take that next step that excites them. So I didn't know what I was doing, and I thought, oh,
so I hired somebody to show me how to build a website, and I hired somebody to show me how to go on Facebook. I didn't know what Facebook was. So now I'm starting to put it out there because I feel like the reason all this happened to me and the reason all this happened for me is for me to spread the word and spread the message of self-empowerment and self-connection. And so I just want to do that any way I can.
And
So
letting your voice out.
yes, yeah. So I started a website called heartbasedlife.com, and I started doing that, and I started doing YouTube videos as a documentation of my journey. And yeah, who knows what's going to happen next. So,
For some, that will be very crazy. For others, it's like amazing that you can do that. Very brave, very courage, very inspiring for so many.
yeah.
So I hope you will keep following your soul, your heart, your passion, your purpose, your whatever you want to call it.
I will.
And your voice, and letting your voice out.
Yeah.
Yeah, the women need your experience, your life experience, what you went through, and people can find you on heartbasedlife.com.
Heartbasedlife.com. Yeah.
And then you're sharing all your blogs, and also the blogs when you just divorced your husband, or when did you start the blog?
Yes, I started writing them when I just when I left.
So there is lots of.
So it is a chronicle of how everything unfolded for me since from the day I left until now. It's just how it unfolded for me. And
so actually it's already a book for you. Like...
It is already a book. Oh my God. It's already a book.
So you're already a writer?
Oh my God. Really? You're so right? Yeah, because so that's the other thing, is that I do want to write a book about what it's like to find my voice and step into my truth, and what it's like to start over again in my 50s. But the old part of me keeps thinking, write a book? You don't know what you're doing. How would you ever write a book? Who's ever going to want to read that? How are you going to publish it? So then your mind starts going, how? Whereas if you just stay in the reasons why do I have to do this? Because there are so many other women out there who are exactly in the position that I was. There's so many other women, and this whole planet is shifting right now, where women are being respected more. Women's repression is it's changing. And this is an opportunity for us as women to be heard and be part of the shift in this planet. Yeah. So I just feel like it's a synchronicity. It's not a coincidence that this happened in my life at this moment in time for this planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hope you will act on it and start writing your book, or you're already doing it.
Oh, Sylvia, I think
you already have one, because your blog is probably so big. So it's like, just take it all together and like, ta-da! Because that was your heart, like just how you felt that feeling, and that's just so much wisdom for so many other women.
Wow, you're absolutely right. You have just encouraged me.
Yay!
Thank you. Yes. See, but part of me thinks I don't know enough yet. I don't know what I'm doing yet. But you're right. I've already done it.
Yeah.
See, I'm still learning. I'm like, self-doubt keeps coming in, and you just have to keep allowing it in. And I'm like, see, you saw it from a different perspective than me.
Yeah.
I see it from my perspective, from the old me that's still there. But as I sit with myself, the old part of me is starting to fade away. That old self-doubt part of me is starting to fall away, and I'm seeing more of what's really true and my limitless possibilities. But see, you saw that already from your perspective. So this is what it means to surround yourself with support and with like-minded people, because you just did that for me. You just elevated me up. You just lifted me up to another level by just saying that.
Voila. Yay. Well, love you.
I love you, Sylvia. Very much.
Okay, well, you know what to do next.
Okay, I know what to do next, and I will I'll dedicate my book to you,
No, to you.
to
Just
myself. Okay.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
That's you have all the credit and all the leaps and the bravery and all the things you went through because
Ah,
it's not easy. It's really not easy to go. And 32 years.
32 years. I didn't know who I was without him.
Yeah.
No idea who I was without the marriage.
And there are
No
so
idea.
many women, I think, they are in the same
Yeah,
situation that they don't
yeah.
know how to start, or they just feel, yeah, I don't want this anymore. But like we said, and
But
the
it's
old
too
parts,
late.
yeah, yeah. Also, being one in that it's too late, and what
But
I'm
it's
going to
too
do
late.
without him, and
Yeah.
that, yeah, just.
And and
Mhm.
I don't have children, so I can't speak to what it would be like for someone who has children. But at this point, I do know other women who do have children. At this point, they're grown. The children are probably grown after being married 32 years. But that is the thing, is that there are a lot of other women out there who have grown children and who maybe have felt that, hey, there's more, or what am I really supposed to be doing now? Or this hasn't felt right for a long time now. And now that the children are grown, now what do I do? Who am I?
Yeah,
What, who am I? And
yeah,
that's the universal question, who am I? And who am I is not like I practice dental hygiene as a profession. But who am I? I am not a dental hygienist. I'm me. I am not a wife or a friend or whatever. Who am I? I am joy. I am love. I am excitement. I am possibilities.
yeah.
I am all this stuff that's inside of me, no matter who I'm with or what other role I'm playing. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I am. That's what I'm investigating now.
Yeah, it's like for me also when I started with the who am I question, and in my journey, it's like I still don't know who I am, but it's
Yeah.
like I know who I don't am anymore. So I'm
Yeah.
not anymore that accountant.
Yes.
I'm not, yeah, being the mom. I'm not my hair. I'm not just all these layers falling
Yes.
off and step
Yes.
by step. Yeah, that's
Yes.
yeah,
You know who you're not.
yeah,
And so now we're on the journey to find out who we are.
yeah. So
And
with
it's
each,
endless.
yeah,
Yeah. Each day, each step, each time we choose the next thing that lights us up, we're getting closer to, we're
yeah,
finding more about who we
yeah,
are.
yeah. I think that's our journey, Jack, to see who am I not or something.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, well, I think time's up. I don't know,
Okay.
time's not up, but
Yeah. But we're done
yeah, for this episode.
for
Maybe
this
the next
episode.
episode will be about
Yep.
her book, and yeah, that will be
And it'll
coming
be
out
from
soon.
my cabin in the woods somewhere, maybe.
Ooh, yeah, very nice.
All right.
Okay, Lorna, I want to thank you for this conversation and for all the wisdom and yeah,
Thank you,
for
Sylvia.
helping others that will listen or view the episodes. I want to thank all the listeners and all the viewers. Thank you for taking the time to listen and learn from Lorna. I hope, yeah, she also touches your heart like she touches mine. So thank you very much to be here, and yeah, see you
Thank
next
you,
time.
Sylvia. Thank you so much. Mwah.
Yay!
Bye.
Bye.